Life has a way of testing you long before it rewards you. And marriage, real, lasting, blessed marriage, is one of the greatest rewards a person can receive. But anything of great value comes at a cost, and that cost is preparation. You don't just stumble into a great marriage. You become the kind of person who can sustain one. And before God blesses you with that responsibility, He will test you to see if you're ready. These tests don't come with an announcement. They don't arrive in neat, predictable packages labeled lesson on patience or training for commitment. No, they come disguised as struggles, disappointments, delays, sometimes even heartbreak. They come in the form of personal failures, in loneliness, in shattered expectations. They come when the thing you desire most seems just out of reach, forcing you to ask yourself, will I give up? Will I compromise? Will I settle for something lesser? Because waiting feels unbearable. Most people don't recognize these moments for what they are. They think they are being punished. They think God has forgotten them, or worse, that He's playing some cruel game. But that's not how this works. A good teacher doesn't punish a student by giving them difficult questions. A good teacher prepares them for something greater by testing them, by making them wrestle with knowledge and discipline before handing them the reward. Think about it this way. If you were to receive the perfect spouse today, someone kind, loyal, emotionally stable, spiritually grounded, would you be ready to be their perfect spouse in return? Most people never ask that. They assume marriage is about finding the right person, but they forget that it's just as much about becoming the right person. And that transformation, it happens in the testing period. Look at the story of any great biblical figure. Joseph, before becoming second in command of Egypt, was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. David, before becoming king, spent years on the run, hunted by Saul, forced into exile. They had to endure immense suffering before they were elevated. And why? Because power without preparation destroys people, and in the same way, marriage without preparation collapses. What happens when a person enters marriage without having been tested? They break under the pressure. They are easily offended. They lack patience. They expect their spouse to complete them because they never learned how to be whole on their own. And the relationship crumbles. Not because they weren't in love, but because they weren't ready for love at that level. So if you're waiting for marriage, if you feel like you're in a season of trial, if it seems like everything is standing between you and what you desire, good. That means God is preparing you. That means He is refining you so that when the blessing comes, you won't just experience it. You'll be able to keep it. And that's the real test. Can you be patient enough to grow? Can you trust that the difficulties you face now are not obstacles, but training? Can you endure without bitterness, without resentment, without trying to take shortcuts? Because marriage is not just a romantic arrangement. It is a covenant. It is a responsibility. It is the binding of two flawed human beings who will inevitably test each other, frustrate each other, challenge each other in ways they never expected. If you cannot handle difficulty now, what makes you think you will handle it then? God will not give you something that will destroy you if you are not yet ready. He will not send you someone who is. And if you are in the process of waiting, then waiting is the test. So ask yourself, are you treating your struggles as punishment? Or are you seeing them for what they are? Proof that something greater is coming. And you are being made into the kind of person who can receive it. Because in the end, the blessing isn't just about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person. And that process, that happens now. Patience is not just waiting. It's how you wait. It's the ability to endure the uncertainty, the delays, the disappointments without breaking, without compromising, without becoming bitter. And that's exactly why God tests patience before he blesses marriage. Because if you cannot master yourself, if you cannot remain steady in the face of frustration, then what makes you think you can sustain a lifelong commitment with another human being? Most people assume they are patient, but they mistake their passivity for patience. There is a difference between waiting because you have no other choice and waiting with discipline, with trust, with self-control. The former is resignation. The latter is strength. And God will test you to see which one you truly possess. How does he do this? He delays what you desire. He places you in situations where everything seems to be moving forward for others while you remain in place. He allows you to encounter disappointment, heartbreak, even loneliness, not because he is cruel, but because he is refining you. He is exposing your weak spots, the parts of you that want to rush, to settle, to take shortcuts. And he is asking, can you trust me enough to endure this without losing yourself? This is where most people fail. They grow impatient. They convince themselves that waiting is pointless. They say, I've been faithful long enough. I deserve something now. And in doing so, they grasp at whatever is available rather than what is right. They enter relationships not because they are ready, not because the person is a true partner, but because they cannot bear to wait any longer. And what happens? The relationship collapses under the weight of their impatience. Patience is not just about waiting for the right person. It's about learning who you are in the process. It's about discovering whether you are emotionally stable enough to handle the realities of marriage, the seasons of difficulty, the moments of frustration, the times when love is not effortless, but a decision. Because marriage will demand that of you. It will test your ability to sacrifice, to compromise, to remain steady even when emotions fluctuate. And if you have not learned patience before entering it, you will struggle to learn it within it. Look at how people react to delays in their everyday lives, a minor inconvenience, a moment of uncertainty, and they panic, they complain, they demand immediate answers. They let their emotions dictate their actions. Now imagine that same mindset within a marriage. A single miscommunication turns into a fight. A moment of stress turns into blame. A temporary hardship is treated like a crisis. And before long, the relationship starts to unravel, not because the love wasn't real, because the foundation was weak. That's why God tests you now. He forces you into situations where you must learn to control your impulses, where you must develop endurance, where you must practice faith even when nothing seems to be happening. Because if you cannot be patient now, when the stakes are lower, how will you handle the real tests of marriage? This is why emotional stability matters. If your happiness depends on external circumstances, on things going your way, on receiving constant reassurance, on never having to wait, then you are not yet ready for a relationship that will require resilience. Because in marriage, there will be seasons of uncertainty. There will be moments where you do not feel as in love as you did before. There will be times when you and your spouse are not on the same page. And your ability to remain steady, to endure without reacting impulsively, will determine whether your marriage strengthens or weakens. So the question is not just, can you wait? The real question is, who are you while you wait? Are you bitter? Are you resentful? Are you trying to force something that isn't meant to be? Or are you using this time to build patience, to develop self-mastery, to become someone who can love with depth rather than just intensity? Because love is easy when it's new, when everything is exciting, when there are no real obstacles. But love that lasts is built by people who know how to endure. And endurance is only developed in the waiting. So if you feel like you are stuck, if you feel like God is withholding something from you, if you are tempted to rush ahead, stop. Recognize the test for what it is. Understand that patience is not weakness. It is not inaction. It is preparation. Because when the time comes, when the right person enters your life, you will want to be ready, not just to receive them, but to love them well. And the strength to do that is being built in you right now. Before God blesses you with a marriage that thrives, He will test your ability to sacrifice. Because love, real love, not just attraction, not just companionship, demands sacrifice. It requires that you put something greater than yourself at the center of your life. And if you are unwilling or unable to do that, marriage will break you. People like to think of love as something that simply happens, as if the right person will come along and everything will fall into place. But that's not how it works. Love is something you build. It is something you sustain through effort, through patience, through the conscious decision to put someone else before yourself. And if you have spent your whole life thinking only of your own desires, your own ambitions, your own comforts, then you will not be capable of the kind of love that makes a marriage last. This is why God tests you. He places you in situations where you have to give up something you want for the sake of something greater. He asks you to sacrifice your ego in moments where you want to be right. He asks you to let go of habits that are easy but destructive. He asks you to serve others, even when you receive nothing in return. And He watches. He watches whether you are willing to do the hard thing or whether you resist, whether you complain, whether you hold on to selfishness as if it were a virtue. Because make no mistake, selfishness will ruin a marriage faster than almost anything else. Because when two people enter marriage, they bring with them two histories, two sets of habits, two sets of wounds. And if both of them are still ruled by selfishness, then every disagreement turns into a battle of egos instead of a conversation rooted in love. That's why God trains you in advance. He wants to see if you can choose humility before He gives you partnership. He wants to know if you can apologize even when you feel justified. He wants to know if you can forgive even when it still hurts, because that's what love requires. And you cannot learn forgiveness in theory. You learn it in practice. You learn it when you are wronged, when you are disappointed, when you are let down by people you trusted. It's easy to talk about grace when life is smooth. It's much harder to live it when everything in you wants to fight back. And yet, that's where spiritual maturity is formed. That's where God shapes the kind of heart that can sustain a marriage, a heart that is soft, not fragile. So when you find yourself in seasons of pain, when you're learning to forgive people who never apologized, when you're learning to keep your peace instead of proving your point, understand that you are being trained for covenant. Because covenant is not built on feelings, it's built on faithfulness. And faithfulness is proven in how you respond when things are not easy. That's why before God gives you a partner, He often isolates you. He takes you through a season where you must rely on Him completely. You'll feel like no one understands you, like the people you thought would stand with you have walked away. You'll pray for companionship, and instead, He'll give you solitude, not because He wants you lonely, but because He wants you complete. He wants you to know how to find peace in His presence, so you don't go looking for peace in someone else's. He wants you to know who you are, so you don't lose yourself trying to be who someone else wants. He wants you to understand that your identity is secure in Him, so you can enter a relationship from fullness, not from emptiness. That's the difference between needing someone and being ready for someone. Needing someone comes from lack. Being ready for someone comes from strength. God is not preparing you to be completed. He's preparing you to be united. Because marriage is not about two halves becoming whole. It's about two whole people joining together in purpose. And that's why the waiting season matters so much. That's why the loneliness, the refinement, the tests, they all have purpose. They are forming the kind of heart that can carry love without breaking under its weight. So if you are in that place right now where you're praying, waiting, wondering when it will happen, don't despise the process. Don't compare your journey to others. Don't think God has forgotten you. He hasn't. He's simply not finished preparing you. Every disappointment you've endured, every delay you've faced, every time you've been forced to start over, it was never wasted. It was all working together to make you stronger, wiser, more discerning, more patient, more like the person who will thrive in the blessing when it finally arrives. Because when God finally sends the one, you'll know. Not because it's perfect, not because it's easy, but because it's peaceful. It will not feel like chaos. It will feel like clarity. It will not drain you. It will strengthen you. It will not distract you from God. It will draw you closer to Him. And when that happens, you will look back at every season of waiting, every lonely night, every unanswered prayer, and you'll thank God it didn't happen sooner, because you'll realize that what felt like delay was actually protection. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. What felt like silence was actually strategy. He was never withholding the blessing. He was shaping you for it. So don't rush what God is still refining. Don't settle for what's available when He's preparing what's divine. Your waiting is not wasted. Your testing is not punishment. It's proof that you are being trusted with something sacred, because when God writes your love story, it will not just be about romance. It will be about redemption. It will be about purpose. It will be about two people who went through the fire separately so they could carry the flame together. So keep trusting, keep becoming, keep waiting with faith, because one day soon, everything you prayed for, everything you cried for, will meet you in the form of a person who's been prepared the same way you were. And when that moment comes, you'll realize it was worth every single test,